Do you know about the black cat and golden retriever theory?
It's Friday, Morty.
It's Friday.
It's Friday. Come here.
What are your weekend plans? Got some birds to watch?
He doesn't really care about birds. He's going to be waiting by his food. No! What are you doing? Okay, he'll be back.
He's like, this is too much attention.
He's like, I mentioned food. I think I said, did I say food? He's going to be
think-
waiting by his food? I was
I don't
thinking
know.
it if I didn't say it.
Okay.
He'll be back when he realizes there's no food for him right now. All right. I think his food's going to go off soon, though, so I apologize in advance. We always seem to schedule these around the times when his, automatic feeder goes off.
It's cute. I like it. I like the
Okay.
little cameo.
In a few minutes, his food's going to go off. He's going to eat, and then he'll be back. So, all right.
All right. Welcome back to Straight Up Book Club.
Welcome.
So today we're going to be reading the rest of Dolly Alderton's good material. I almost said Dolly Parton.
I
mean,
really
only
want
know
to
one
see Dolly Parton. I don't know any. Okay, I know two Dollys. I know Dolly Parton, and then apparently I had a relative named Dolly Whore, and I just think that's the best name ever. Those are the two Dollys in my life.
Is
And now Alderton.
HOAR?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's all I know.
It's a great name. We need more Dollys. Okay, so we do. It's a great name.
Let's make this happen. Anyone out there who's with child, please name your baby Dolly. We'll thank you later. Oh my god. Okay. I'm gonna get comfy.
Okay, so we are reading, the second half of this book, and what did you think? Let's start off with a summary, and then let's talk about whether some of our predictions came true.
Okay, so it was actually a great place to start because I know we were like, oh shoot, we accidentally told people to read to page 157, and there was actually like a bit of a pause in the book.
Mm-hmm.
But we actually, right after page 157, we start with another list, which is how the book starts.
Yeah.
And this list is from Andy's perspective, and he's like, here's everything that I know about Seb. And Seb, as you know from our last episode, is the guy that he ran into at the mall with Jen. He was like kind of obsessed. You could tell he was kind of obsessing over who this guy was. And there's a big list about how he knows, or everything that he does know about Seb. And apparently they worked together.
Mm-hmm.
It turns out there wasn't overlap.
I was kind of glad.
I was glad too.
It would have been too easy if it was suddenly like, oh, she did the shitty thing. So I'm kind of glad for that.
When he did the deep dive on his Instagram profile, he said he looked like a retired underwear model. So I got like a very clear vision of what this guy looked like. And he was the kind of guy who had like a very expensive scent, and the kind of guy who had a mortgage and traveled and, knew about wine and whiskey, like that kind of person. So he gives that list. And that's that. And then a lot happens with Andy. I don't remember there being like a moment where he makes a switch, but I think it might have been the night that he goes out with Sophie, and they are doing karaoke together, and she's like really not into it. She doesn't want to do it. And I think he kind of realizes that like this relationship is not what he wants, and he ends things with her.
Yeah.
And she doesn't take it very well.
Yeah, it was so interesting because she was, really aloof at the beginning, right? She thought everything was cringe, which I thought was kind of hilarious because, of course, this person's like 12 years younger than you. Of course, they think everything's cringe. Side note, I also kind of love that because I do like with my partner to say ew to everything. So I just think it's kind of hilarious to do that. I don't really mean that. So I kind of read it as that. Like, she doesn't really mean it. But that was kind of revealed to be sort of an act in a way. What did you think of that? Because it's almost like she's playing this like pick me part, right?
Yeah, I felt that way, but I also feel like what was she, like 23?
Yeah, much younger.
23-year-old person is not playing a little bit of a role. Like if I think back at that point in my life, you know, you are kind of trying to figure out who you are, and you are putting on a facade. You are kind of, you know, this is my persona. These are my interests. We told you it was going to happen. Maybe he'll eat his dinner and come join us. But yeah, I definitely get the vibe that she had kind of like the pick-me energy. But I think that that's also just very typical of anyone who's that age, especially someone who's like dating someone who's a little bit older. Like she kind of makes the remark, oh, I only like date older guys.
Yeah.
And I don't know what that means, but it's interesting when you, yeah, it's interesting that was like her thing.
Yeah.
And it was almost like a rule of her. She had a lot of rules.
So many rules. Yeah.
And Andy liked that about her. He kind of liked the fact that she knew what she wanted and didn't want.
That's a great point. Like we are all like trying to figure out, you know, how are we not subscribing to the rules that everyone's telling us that we should be.
Exactly. She made it seem like she didn't really care until he broke up with her. And then it was very evident that she did care a lot about him, which is so, I think that's a very true human insight. I think people like to kind of pretend like, especially early on in relationships, that they're not as into it as they want to be.
Yeah. And towards the end, though, she was starting to, you know, text him more. I think she was like letting him stay over now. And that was one of her rules that she can't, that she doesn't like people staying over. And yeah, she was like coming over and just kind of lingering and asking him questions. And I think she was like letting on in that way that, you know, she was more interested. But yeah, oh man, like the thing with was it a scarf where he's like, I'll post it to you? That was like it was a heartbreaker. And I feel like, I just like felt such a shudder, you know? Like,
that's hard. That's hard. And that was great though, because they echoed that at the end with Jen.
I love that so much, that callback, because it's also like, yeah, you do these callous things, you know, in sort of an unthinking way sometimes, but then when they happen to you and you're like, oh, like now I get it.
Yeah.
And these little moments of empathy that he's experiencing were just so well done, because, you know, it really takes that for him to be like, all right, like now I get it. Now I get what Jen was going through.
What happens next? Is it kind of like the party? They go to this party. It's for Jane and Abby's son Jackson, and I think that like Jen and Andy are the godparents, and obviously like both Andy and Jen are going there, and they have no choice but to be mature, to be adults. And for some reason, like Andy's starting to kind of come into his own at that point, and he is very mature, and they have a conversation and they get a little drunk, and then they go back to her place and they have sex, and that's where that scene comes up that we're referring to, where, you know, they have this like wonderful night together, and the next day she's kind of eager to get on with her life alone, and she doesn't want him there, and he's lost, like, is it his keys or his wallet? He's lost something.
Yeah, it was his keys. Yeah.
Can't find them anywhere. They call the Uber, they check the house, and he's like, I don't know what to do. And she's like, well, it's fine, like maybe Morris can let you in, and don't worry, if I do find them, I'll post them to you. And that's kind of that moment where you're like, he's like, oh shit, maybe that wasn't like such a nice thing for me to say to Sophie.
Do you know about the black cat and golden retriever theory?
This is actually a great point to bring it up, the flip, right?
Yeah.
When Andy talks, so there's a theory in this part of the book where Andy says that in every relationship there's a power imbalance where one person loves the other more. Whoever doesn't love that person the most, or whoever loves the least, is like the winner of that relationship. And that's like his theory. And then that's kind of where your note came in. So I don't know. I imagine it's surrounding that, but tell me, black cat, golden retriever. I mean, I feel like I can guess.
TikTok. I think it's like one of TikTok's theories, or one of the theories on TikTok. And there's so many of them. I can't even keep up with them. But anyway, I heard about this on a podcast. But basically, the theory is that every successful relationship is like the woman is a black cat and the guy is a golden retriever. And what that means is the black cat is more sort of aloof, you know, it's kind of hard to get, kind of like always kind of, you know, she's there, she's into it, but you have to work for it. You know, you have to work for their affection. You have to work for their interest a little bit. golden retriever is there to please. Like, he's gonna do whatever for you.
I think that sums up both of our relationships.
Yeah, right. I was thinking that too.
So I feel like it's a little biased for you to be like, yep, that's true. That's also not fair, because can't a woman be a golden retriever? Okay, sorry, keep going.
Okay, yeah. So that's the thing, right? It's like so that's the theory says that that's the mark of a successful relationship, but you and I have likely both I know I have been in a relationship where I haven't been the black cat, right? I've been the golden retriever, and I've been the one doing the chasing. Apparently that doesn't work.
Okay, so you're telling me that like as a person that role can switch. It's not like you're always okay.
Yeah, it depends on the relationship, and apparently, I don't know, but this podcast I was listening to was like kind of analyzing celeb relationships and being like, all right, well, it seems like, these are working because of whatever.
I love this theory.
It's kind of fun, yeah. So I wonder if there's an element of that going on here. Like, she was the golden retriever, and Sophie was, and maybe
okay, but then what about Jen and Andy? Because doesn't Jen give you like black cat vibes, and Andy gives you actually, because fuck, oops, should I swear? I kept editing out my swears in the last one, and I was like, doesn't matter.
I think it's fine.
I'm dying. Okay, sorry, let's take it back. Okay, at first I was gonna say that doesn't make any sense, because I think that Jen is the black cat and Andy is the golden retriever.
I think they're both black cats in that relationship, because he's also like,
yes,
he's kind of hard to get. He's
Speaking
not Speaking
of black cats, sorry. Morty wins any relationship he's in.
True.
Come on, BB. Okay, sorry, you can keep talking, because he's gonna take 5 minutes to jump up here. Have you seen?
Because he's a black cat. You gotta work for it.
So I'm a golden retriever in this relationship. I'm like, come on. Please, just love me. Spend time with me. Okay, sorry. What were we saying? They were both black cats.
Yeah. Maybe that's why it wasn't working out. I don't know. And yeah,
I do love that theory, and you're right, because when you're thinking about you're shedding so much. No, I didn't even think of the fact that, in a relationship, it could be 2 black cats or 2 golden retrievers or something like that. I love that theory. Can you tell us what you all think? Like, I want to know if you feel the same way, if you've been a black cat, if you've been a golden retriever. What's your relationship now? Do you agree? We want to know. This is obviously a theory, so who's to say? And I think we're both biased, because we're black cats around here.
Yeah, I'm fascinated. I want to help us poke holes in this theory.
Yeah, show us an example of, like, I don't know, 2 golden retrievers, 2 black cats, and tell us they work. I want to know. I'm curious. Okay, so they have sex. He leaves. She's gonna post his keys if she finds them. Very sad. And then we get another list from Andy that says reasons why I'm not with Jen, and he says she doesn't want to be with me. Like, he's kind of come to accept the fact that it's not going to work because she doesn't want to be with him, and he's ready to move on. And that's our last moment with Andy's POV. And then we were right that it was going to be like Fleischman is in trouble, because we do get her perspective, which was amazing.
I love that.
Oh my God. Yeah. I love Jen's character. I loved seeing just how the exact same situations from his perspective now in hers. It was so well done. Like the trip that they went on together, and how you really got a lot of information about how self-absorbed Andy was. Like when they were at a museum and they were looking at some like statue or painting, and she was really moved by it, and she noticed that he was looking at his phone, and the thing he was looking at on his phone was he was like Googling himself to see if the show that he was recently on aired in France, because she knew that he wanted to know if he would get recognized there. And he like he only wanted to look at the artwork in the galleries that he knew anything about. He just wanted to breeze past the ones that he didn't. There's just the thing that really got me was the fact that he gave her mom the karaoke mics.
Oh yeah.
And she was like, he did it for the joke. He was the only one who thought it would be funny.
Yeah, there was a lot of moments like that. It were just like so he's only thinking about himself, right? Like um even when she gets that promotion and towards the end there's this like string of like 4 or 5 things that happen that she's just like this was it. This was like a slow descent into like the end, I guess, right? Um and one of them was that she got a promotion and she didn't want to tell him. She felt single. But it's wild because I feel like he drove her to that as well because he was just so unsupportive for so long, right? Like when she's sick, he's not taking care of her and like
That was so sad.
yeah.
Yeah, that he didn't even like make her a cup of tea or anything like that. And she really did do a lot for him. And you alluded to this before, but when they were going through the breakup, she went to stay with her sister who was going through her own thing. She had a new baby and it was very hectic. And she stayed there anyways because she wanted to make sure that Jane and Abby's place was a safe space for like Andy to go to. So even in their breakup, she was being very protective of him, which shows that she did do a lot for him that he just like never returned.
Yeah. Yeah, and she's also like looking out for him in all these ways, right? Like in addition to that, like she asks Avi to keep an eye on him. And then the only reason that she catfishes Andy. Oh, we find out that she was Tash, right? That was wild. Like, did you see that coming? It was kind of a
Not at all.
yeah.
And I don't think we actually talked about Tash last time, but Tash was the one who I thought was a bot. I was just convinced that it was like, this guy's an idiot and he's talking to a bot. And his friends convinced him it wasn't because of her Instagram profile, but like, come on. I don't know. Yeah, she did. And why did she catfish him? What was her reason for that?
Well, so, okay. Abby, and remember that night where like the boys take him out with, the balloons, and apparently remember there was this like really strange moment the next day where Andy's like, did something weird happen? And Abby's kind of I don't know, weird about it. He's like, no, of course not, why would you say that? And we find out that something did happen. Like Andy was so out of it that Abby, who's also, you know, obliterated, was really worried and panicked and called his wife. And Jen was there with Jane too, right? And that at that point, I think Jen called Avi to get more info, and she just wasn't getting enough, and she just wanted to have another avenue of getting information, and that's why she catfished him.
Should you see that coming, or were you surprised?
I did not see that coming. I thought there was something weird about the fact that Tash just like disappeared. But yeah, I didn't think it was Jen. I thought Jen was, you know, just moving on and not like trying to be in contact with him. I didn't really realize that she was looking out for him. So that part, it was a really like nice surprise, and I love that I didn't see it coming.
Me too.
Yeah, it's always really nice when it's well done and you don't predict stuff like that.
The other thing I didn't see coming was there's a moment earlier in this part of the book where Morris finally gets that letter from Julian Assange, and it's like, I just want to thank you for being like a true like citizen. You're just like so great for society. Everybody, like historians are going to look back at people like you who actually changed the world. And I don't need that money right now, but I want to thank you for it because I really appreciate you looking out for us. Yeah. And it's just this like letter of praise essentially to Morris for everything he's been doing from Julian Assange. And I actually thought it was from him.
Me too. Yeah.
But then this was my redeeming arc for Andy. Is you get a moment from Jen's perspective where she's kind of with Abby and Jane, and he says that he needs to do some like graphic designing, I guess, for Andy. He wants to get a letter, and it needs to be very convincing that it's from this person. And he doesn't say who it is, but you know then that Andy had set this up, and it's like, yes, you're flat out lying to this sweet old man, but I don't know. It was for the good. It made his day, and like there's no way he'll ever find out because the only people who know are Abby and Andy. So I just thought it was a sweet gesture.
I love how the reveals are done in this book, right? It was so it wasn't spelled out, you know, like you said, you know, we kind of put the pieces together, and yeah, this book is really well written.
So well written. It was a lot of like, of course. Why didn't I see that coming?
Yeah.
That makes perfect sense. And that's always the best. It's not good when you're like, oh, that came out of nowhere. Like, it was very like so well plotted, I guess. I don't really know how to articulate that, but it just felt like everything came together so beautifully. There was so much beautiful repetition, like in the lists and the like echoing back to things earlier that you totally forgot, which we also talked about in A Little Life when they go back to the conversation about being on the roof. Yeah. I love when that happens in a book, when you, I think it was Jerry Seinfeld who talks about like, you know, the best storytelling is closing by return. I apologize if I'm crediting him and it was someone else, but that is the best storytelling, when you kind of echo back into these moments in the past and you're like, shit, yeah, that did happen, that was beautiful, and you're bringing that back again now.
They do that a lot in comedy specials too. Yes. Sometimes it starts to get kind of annoying. Like you're like, all right, well, okay, well, we're almost done now.
You know it's coming to a close when the first joke reappears.
I know, right?
Some comedians do it really well. Jerry Seinfeld's, and I think this is why I'm crediting him with it, and maybe I'm wrong here, but he does that with the Pop-Tart joke. Where he like starts his set with talking about Pop-Tarts, and then we don't hear about it for a while, and at the end he makes that joke about Pop-Tarts, how, and they're, what is it? It's like, and they never go stale because they were never fresh to begin with, and it kills me every time. I think it's hilarious. Anyways, funny. Let's, if you're down, I'd love to talk about Jen's chapter. It is a lot like Fleischman is in Trouble. We didn't say the author's name last time. I pulled it up now because I feel like it's horrible that I'm not saying the author's name. It's Taffy Brodesser Akner, if I'm saying that right. Great book. Definitely read that. It's a great companion to this one. But yeah, we end with her thoughts, and you know, we kind of already talked a little bit about all of their differing POVs on certain events. But the thing that really got to me was her desire to be alone. And that to me was so beautiful, because there's a moment where she's with Jane, who we know is her best friend, and she's getting upset about something. I can't remember what. Like, I think she's saying something about how she wants to be alone. That is why she broke up with Andy. Like, she was honest with him when she said that was why. And she's thinking back to a moment when she's with her grandmother who's dying. Essentially, she's saying to her that women have the full power to be alone, to not have children and be completely fulfilled, and that she often wonders about her life and what it would have looked like if she had been alone. And then she has a moment when she's talking to Jane, and Jane says something like, please don't tell me you're going to go get married and have kids just because you're worried about being lonely. And I can't remember the exact quote, but it's something like, Jen, you're one of those rare people who can be alone without being lonely. Do you know how rare that is? Like, be alone. That's for you. And I thought that this was like the first book that like kind of gives women permission to like have that for themselves. Like, I'm child free by choice. It's something that I've never wanted, but it is something that I sometimes worry. I'm like, you know, will I be lonely one day? Like, society's telling me that I will. So maybe I will regret it, even though I like know at my core. And I was kind of bringing this up, echoing this to my therapist. And she said, you know, people your age don't have the blueprint of what it looks like to lead different lives than the typical getting married, having kids, having a mortgage, et cetera, et cetera. So your generation is really grappling with the idea of not living lives that are different from that because you've never seen it before, which I thought was really interesting. And there you go. There's some free trickle down therapy for you all, but I want to know your perspective. I just went on for like 20 minutes.
No, I love it. I love it. As I was reading that, I was like, does everyone have these feelings? It's like sort of like the grass is greener sort of thing, right? Like, if she wasn't in a relationship, and she wasn't before, right? She was sort of thinking about what it might be like if she found someone that she was like truly with and truly who felt like he was truly right for her. And then she's had that, and now she's like going back to wondering. So I don't know. It's really interesting because I feel like personally for me, I'm always going to wonder about what I don't have, but I'll also always know like what I want at my core. You know?
I think that's a human truth. Like if we're all really being honest with ourselves, aren't we all going to wonder about the what ifs? And the most important thing is like you're sure of the thing that you want the most.
Yeah.
Like The Midnight Library, another great book. It's Matt. Okay. Midnight Library, Matt. We'll put it in the notes.
Yeah.
Midnight Library, great book. But this woman's life, and it was different because it deals with like different topics, but it's a woman who wonders all these different lives she could have lived. And at the end of the day, the life that she has is the one that is meant for her. And I do think like when you get to your 30s, you do know what you want. You do. Yeah. You really truly do. Oh, fuck, doesn't that mean that we just need to give people the permission to like know what they want? Like there's nothing that drives me crazy more than someone who questions my choices. Do you know what I mean? Does that kind of get to you too?
Yeah.
And like and when they ask questions like aren't you worried that you're going to regret it? Like I'm not worried I'm going to regret it. Will I sometimes wonder what my life would look like if it was XYZ? Yeah, I wonder sometimes what my life would look like if I was an astronaut. I wonder sometimes what my life would look like if I was a pilot.
If I lived somewhere else, if I had a different job, if I like all sorts of things, like if I went left instead of right, like it's all sorts of things, right?
And I would say that's most humans. I'm sure there's some out there who's like, no, I've literally never thought of anything besides the life I live in. But also that's kind of boring. So like, sorry. Good on you, but I think that what you're saying is just a reality for humans. Like we're always going to wonder. The most important thing is that we're doing what we feel is the best for us.
Yeah, and you're right. Like going back to your original point, it's like there's so much pressure to be a certain way, and it's so hard to shake it when, like she says in the book, like Jen, all of her friends are suddenly choosing this life that she doesn't want, right? Yes. Even her one friend who she used to like bond with over not having kids and kind of make fun of, like, you know, her friends who were, well, not make fun of, but you know what I mean? Just kind of being like, oh, another one. Even she's having a kid now. And
that
it's
scene
like,
broke my heart.
Yeah, right?
Because I did have a moment where I was like, what if I am the only one? Like I have a lot of friends who are like, oh no, I never want kids. But I'm like, what if I'm 50 and like I'm really the only one? Then whatever, it's fine. I've still lived my truth, but
yeah, so what, right? Like,
but it was definitely, I felt it.
Yeah, that's hard. It's really interesting. Like her whole progression and her past, like I really loved that part of it. Like we also get to know, you know, some of her childhood trauma, and that plays into this as well. Like, and I think that's why she doesn't want to be around people, because like the people she's loved have hurt her. We learn about her father having an affair and her walking in on, you know, this other woman in their home when she was quite young and her mother was away. And I think that sort of stuff stays with you too, right? Like, why should I be in a relationship with someone when, you know, the map that I saw was so messed up?
Especially because the way she talked about her parents' relationship is that everybody who saw their relationship from outside of it thought that they had the perfect relationship. It was the perfect marriage and the best parents. And that's hard when everybody tells that to you and then you know something different. You know something that they don't.
Also, we learned that, you know, her entire life, like, she kind of just fell into some of these choices. So, you know, she took the job. She put off a lot of her dreams. And, yeah, so I feel like she gave up control in a lot of different ways. So yes, she's really successful and, you know, her life is really together, but she doesn't really want any of that structure, right? So I think that also plays into it. Yeah, so I'm curious to hear about like your thoughts on that end too, where she quits her job, she goes on this this trip as well, and she's sort of like, it's kind of this like really great moment of just like, okay, now I can finally do the things. But then we know that that's when COVID happened too. So
that happened to me. 2020, I'm also really lucky to have a partner who has the same like ideals as I do. So I think that helps. That's, I think, why I'm happy to be with this partner, because I think if I didn't have someone like that, I would truly prefer to be alone. Like if I didn't have someone who wanted to travel the world with me, I really do think I'd be a person who would rather just be a bit of a lone wolf. But in 2020, yeah, he's the best. In 2020, I went to my work and said that I wanted a year off. They gave it to me. They were really good about it. And I took a year leave of absence to travel. Mm-hmm. We went to like 2 countries, and then when we were in Vietnam, COVID hit, and it was like overnight that happened. And it's interesting because I think that she said that she was going to be leaving in March, and I left in January, and I came home in March because Trudeau, we're in Canada, and at the time Trudeau was like, any Canadians that are abroad, you have to come home. And I know Greg and I were like humming and hawing, we're like, how serious is this, like, can we just stay and wait it out? But it really started to hit me when like we were in Hanoi, and like overnight the city changed. Like the city where I was afraid to cross the street because mopeds are just going like crazy, became a ghost town, and we had to come back, and that was March. And we know that Jane had quit her job in January. She came back like from work after the holidays, put her notice in, and she was getting her apartment up to be like sublet for a year, and she was starting her traveling in March of 2020. This book just came out. Do you think that there is going to be a good material part 2 that's like from Jen's perspective in 2020 when she can't travel anywhere?
I hope so.
I hope so too.
I would
Please
read it. Please
bring that to us. Maybe this is a different, like a parallel universe where there is no COVID, but it's just the timing is wild.
Towards the end of it, well, there's 2 things, right? We see Morris just like sanitizing stuff. Like we see him like wiping.
Yes, you kept picking up on that stuff, and I still missed it in this round, but you're right.
And towards the end, when they're at Andy's special that he's written, there is mention of this headline about this virus, and they're kind of just like mocking it or just kind of rolling their eyes at it sort of thing. But I just loved how or where this book ended, because you know she didn't take this trip, right? And it's just another in her series of things that doesn't happen for her, even when now she's trying to take her agency, like exert her agency, whatever is the right way of saying that. But she's trying to make these things happen that didn't happen for her before. And it's not going to happen. And I think there's so much sadness in that. And I also kind of think that because of that, and because, you know, where we see Andy and her leave off, I feel like they were one of the COVID couples that got back together. And that's not great either. So there are so many sort of, I love where she left this off at the end, because my mind just pieced all of that together, and there's a story in my head, there might be a different one in your head, you know what I mean? So I love when there's room for that too.
Dolly, please write another book on what happens next. Jen, please get your year abroad. I'm still going to try again. I hope she does too. Yeah. I hope they make a sequel.
I know she will.
Come on, Dolly Alderton. Our new Dolly. Our new queen. Okay, bye, Morty. Black cat. No. Everyone's a golden retriever to Morty.
Should we talk about the next book?
Yes.
All right, let's do it. Okay, so we are thinking for our next read, we're going to read Funny Story by Emily Henry. I've been seeing this book everywhere, honestly, like all of the airports for the last like few months.
Well, traveler.
All over.
Such a Jen. Sorry.
But yeah, I'm excited for this. So we're trying to figure out like what really the vibes of this book are based off the little blurb here, but it sounds like it might be a little bit of a relationshipy book as well. But yeah, there's a little bit of intrigue here mixed into it.
I'm here for it. Yeah, it feels like a summer read. It feels like maybe there's an element of rom-com, but then there's a huge element of tension here where it sounds like it's a bit of a fiance swap. Okay, let's read the first 17 chapters up to page 200.
Yes, exactly.
Perfect. I love that for us.
Wait, did you say 17 chapters or 18 chapters?
Up to 18, sorry.
Perfect.
Yeah, so first 17 chapters, end on chapter 18, page 200, I believe. It's a nice, beautiful spot. And we'll be back next week.
Amazing. We'll see you then.
See you at book club.
Bye.
Bye.